Hello, and welcome to another edition of FNR Ask the Expert. Today, we're going to be talking about rainscaping, rain gardens, and all the ways that you can help prevent pollution in our water bodies near you. So today, we're joined by Sarah Hansen, who is an Ag and Natural Resources educator for Purdue Extension in Johnston County, and Kara Salazar, who is the Assistant Program Leader and Extension Specialist for Sustainable Communities. She's also with Purdue Extension and Illinois-Indiana Sea Grant. She has multiple assignments, but she knows what she's talking about. So we're going to let her get things started and tell us a little bit about what rainscaping is. But first, if you have any questions throughout the broadcast, just want to remind you to put those in the comment section on Facebook, and we'll have Kara and Sarah answer those as we go along. So without further ado, Kara, I'm going to share the screen and let you take it away and teach us all about rainscaping.
Great. Thanks so much, Wendy. And I'm really happy to join this session today to talk about our Purdue Rainscaping Education Program and rainscaping in general. To get started, rainscaping is a combination of sustainable landscape design and management practices. It focuses on preventing polluted runoff from reaching water bodies. In particular, we want to direct stormwater to be absorbed by plants and soils. Illinois-Indiana Sea Grant and Purdue Extension created a program to provide training and resources on rainscaping practices, focusing on installations in residential settings as well as small-scale public spaces projects. Our training and resources from the program also specifically focus on rain gardens. So a rain garden is a type of bioretention, which means this is a shallow depression that's constructed in the ground to hold and infiltrate water from rooftops, via downspouts, driveways, or other types of impervious surfaces, with the ultimate goal to reduce polluted stormwater runoff. Had a little bit of feedback there.
Yeah, so. I didn't hear it.
Looks like we're having some technical issues with Wendy, but we can hand it over to Sarah to talk a little bit more about stormwater.
Sure, I'll jump in. So what exactly is this stormwater? And so after a rainfall event or when snow melts, instead of water just flowing over the ground or into the ground, it goes over the ground. Sometimes that's because there are streets or parking lots, there's buildings and driveways. If that water can't get soaked into the soil, it's then going to run off. And so that's what we call stormwater. It just doesn't soak into the ground.
Great. And I can talk a little bit more too about where stormwater goes. And we have another slide that we can share with a great visual on that. If you wouldn't mind sharing that, Wendy, thanks. So as stormwater is flowing across the surfaces, as Sarah described, it's more likely for things like pollutants, such as petroleum products and fertilizers, pesticides, sediment, and bacteria to move along with this stormwater runoff. These pollutants can then enter our lake streams and rivers and other natural water bodies, and this is untreated water then. So those pollutants are directly going into our water bodies. So many times we're using these water bodies for fishing, swimming, recreation uses, drinking water. And so we like to install rainscaping best practices to help capture that stormwater runoff and ultimately to protect our water resources.
So I don't know, Wendy, if there have been any questions, are you able to put them into the chat box? We're having trouble hearing you. Yeah, it just sounds like she's maybe next to some water bodies right now.
I know, it's great. That's funny.
If there are any questions, though, I'll continue on just a little bit about what people can do potentially as things get more developed and there's more houses or buildings and streets, whatnot, then we can direct water potentially by having it come down and go into a rain barrel, or it could go into a rain garden. You could install pervious type pavement, like in your driveway. We can also conserve trees by keeping trees around. Then we're going to have the ability to soak up more of the water and not have it run off. We can also redirect downspouts, and even landscaping with some good plants, some native species for the area. Those are all things that homeowners can do in the area. Wendy, I don't know if it would make a difference if you set one of us as a co-host, and if you were to hop off and back in, sometimes that fixes the technical issue. Okay, so Kara, did you want to maybe continue as Wendy gets out of the program and back in?
Sure, we can just pause here for a minute too and see if there's anything else. So let's, we can talk a little bit more too and see if people have, if there are people online, if you'd like to share anything about rain gardens or rain barrels that you have to date. Rain barrels are a great rainscaping practice too that have become quite popular. We have a really nice video on our Rainscaping Education Program website, and I'll share the website at the end of our session too. So in addition to rain garden best practices, we also have great information about setting up rain barrels and maintaining them properly. They're great for irrigation and other types of, and watering different types of plants, but definitely not vegetable gardens. All right, so I'm going to see if we can get into this again. We're not hearing any improvements, Wendy, so sorry about that. If you want to go ahead and put the slides back up, we can go ahead and keep talking. And we can go through our different information pieces.
And I do see one question about swales, which we haven't really got into, but there's one on Facebook.
Oh, okay, great. Let's see that one. So yeah, swales are a type of bioretention. So many times that's more of a linear type of bioretention. So rain gardens are these shallow bowls that we're constructing, and we're directing stormwater to go into those, the rain gardens. And with other types of bioretention, sometimes they're more linear. So you're going to have water conveyed through a swale to get to a different point. You also want to have infiltration going within that as well. So it's really how they're designed. Many times swales are longer and thinner, but they have very similar kinds of purposes to a rain garden as well. And some of the great benefits you can see on the screen here too. What we construct rain gardens to do is to increase infiltration. So and Sarah's going to talk about some of the plant options in a little bit here, but you're wanting to have deep-rooted plants in rain gardens so that you can increase infiltration. And ultimately, we want to get the stormwater runoff directed in there, and that way we can have reduction of pollutants entering other types of water bodies. Rain gardens are also great because they're absorbing about 30% more water than equivalent lawn. So you do have additional infiltration from that standpoint too. You can design them in so many different ways. So really it's up to your interest in how you design them and the types of plants and other types of features you have within the rain garden. And they're really beneficial for wildlife habitat. So you can make sure to plant rain gardens for pollinators, as well as other types of wildlife with berries and seeds. And then finally, with one of the benefits from rain gardens that they, although they do take maintenance, they can be less of a maintenance than other types of landscaping features. They in particular really the plants need to be watered in the first couple of years, especially, and perhaps beyond, especially if there's a drought, there are drought conditions. And you do need to weed every year, and you may want to have some mulch to start out to suppress some of the weeds. So it's not maintenance free, but it typically is less maintenance once the plants are established and they're growing well too.
Okay. If there aren't any other questions, I'm gonna talk a little bit about a good place to put a rain garden. What would be the site that you select? So potentially it might be around a house or an office building or something. You just don't want it to be really close to the foundation. So we say at least 10 feet from the foundation. Also, it'd be smart to have things downhill from the area where things are going to flow into it. You wouldn't really want to try to make water go uphill. So other things to think about, you don't want to be right on top of underground utilities or septic systems. And also areas with really poor natural drainage are not ideal either. I know sometimes people think this spot is always swampy and wet. How about I just turn that into a rain garden? But that's really not what you're shooting for. You want your rain garden to only have water in it for 24 hours at the most. You don't want it to sit wet all the time. So hopefully that helps people when they're thinking about the different spots around their house that they could potentially put in a rain garden.
Absolutely. And doing those infiltration tests are really important too. So as you're thinking about where you might want to put in a rain garden, digging an 8x8 inch hole and filling it with water and then timing it within about a 12-hour or so period to see how far it goes down. That can help you think about infiltration. That also can help you with the sizing of the depth of your rain garden. And we have more instructions in our video on how to do that too. But that's one way to find out if there is a good spot that the spot that you're thinking about, if it is a good location, if it's an appropriate location for a rain garden. Otherwise, if it's slow draining, then you can try amending it and seeing if it will drain appropriately then. But otherwise, you may need to find another spot. And also for some of those areas that are ponding in your backyard or other areas you would like to put a rain garden, see if you can then channel the water to another location that would be appropriate for a rain garden. And that way, that is one way that you can think about how to get the water off of the area that you don't want it to be in. So those are a couple of other things. One other thing to think about too is that with basements, try to place rain gardens at least 20 feet away from basements. So 10 feet's the absolute max, but then for any, or the absolute placement, but then also think about basements, and 20 feet is recommendation from how far away it should be from a house, just in case, to be safe so you don't have any type of seepage. I'll talk a little bit more about how big a rain garden can be. So So we've mentioned earlier that rain gardens are shallow depressions. So you want it to look like this picture here. You don't want it to have steep sides. Go ahead to the second one. That's the next one. Thanks. So you don't want it to have very steep sides. You want it to be gently sloping, and you want kind of to have that flat bottom on the bottom of the flat base on the bottom of the rain garden. And so water is going to be flowing in from your impervious surfaces, and it's going to fill up here. And as Sarah mentioned, we don't want it to stay for longer than 24 hours. That helps with mosquitoes, especially. So if it's draining within 24 hours, you should have no mosquito problems then. And then we are, so we're thinking about the size and the depth, and that's based on the number of impervious surfaces as well as soil types. And so we mentioned some of that already. A typical rain garden generally ranges from about 100 to 300 square feet. So you're looking at where the impervious surfaces are coming from. And you're also going to size it at about 4 to 8 inches deep. And that's dependent upon the infiltration test that you're doing. But you don't want it to be any more than 12 inches or 1 foot deep. For safety purposes in particular. And rain gardens function very well at 12 inches or less too. And so those are some of the, the basic aspects of thinking about siting and sizing a rain garden. So you want to know where your water is coming from, how you're going to channel it into the rain garden. You want to make sure that it's going to drain within 24 hours, and you want it to be no more than 12 inches deep.
We can't hear you, Wendy. Sorry. I guess if there's questions, maybe put them into the Zoom chat box for us. Oh, I've got the Facebook page open as well. I didn't see any, but I'm going to refresh my page. Okay. Technology is great sometimes, other times not so much. I can dive in a little bit on the plants for a rain garden and tell you about what we have in our Johnson County rain garden that we put in just last September. So speaking from what Kara mentioned, ours is about 12 inches deep. We went pretty big with our size of our rain garden. It's 300 square foot. It's coming off of our really large office building. So we did end up adding amendments to the soil. We have some sand and compost that went in to help. Yeah, there's the picture. Thank you for putting that up. And it definitely has improved that soil drainage since we amended it. And the plants were much smaller, obviously, when we put them in. Over winter, things looked a little sad. And I just had my fingers crossed that as 2020 started and spring would have our plants come back, and they did. And it's amazing. They now are here very full, and it's great. We have been watering when there were dry periods and pulling weeds every couple of weeks or so. But what you'll see in our picture here, I've got a list of plants I can share. Things, obviously milkweed, black-eyed Susan. Usually along the bottom of rain gardens, I think sedges always end up there in the deepest part of the bowl. And then other things like prairie dropseed, blazing star, cardinal flower, and coneflower. I don't know if I mentioned the iris, but there's a lot of great plants that we were able to get from a nursery. I think it was up around the Muncie area with native plants. We have a few other odd things in there. There was a foxglove, beard tongue, queen of the prairie, Rattlesnake master. Yeah, just a bunch of neat plants. This was a good learning experience for me. And then I worked with Marion County Extension folks as well for the class that we had. So that's a little bit about just the Johnson County demonstration rain garden and the plants.
Sarah, did you, and you had a lot of Purdue Master Gardeners that were supporting this effort, is that right?
As far as people taking the class or people helping after?
Helping with the garden. Yeah, who's helping with the garden?
Yeah, we have a pretty good base of active volunteers in Johnson County that have volunteered to help. Sometimes it's me out there or this interns as well. So it's kind of just whoever is there at the right time. Oh, I do see a question from Wendy. Good. The water is our rain spout, downspout from the roof of our extension office building. It's just one corner there that goes basically a pipe under the ground feeding into our rain garden. And then we also have an outlet to it as well in case we were to get a really, really big rain event, which, you know, we have occasionally. There's a place for it to spill over. But really, we're located with the rain garden. It's next to our office building, but it's also next to our parking lot. So some water potentially might spill off from the parking lot. And I just like the location that we put it because as people come and park to visit the extension office for whatever reason, they're going to see that big garden. And then it kind of sparks questions. People come inside and ask, what is that? Just a conversation piece that we have now. So like I mentioned, we tried to use native plants. I think it's important that people realize you don't necessarily want plants that love to be wet all the time. In fact, most of the time, the plants that are in there are not sitting in wet soil. So I just want to make sure to reiterate, you're not creating a swampland. Your plants are actually going to have dry feet for most of the time. It's only during those big rain events that they're doing their job and helping to soak up water and filter things.
If you want to type things in the chat, Wendy, you can. If you want to ask us questions too. Great, yeah. Something. So something I'll share too is that we, with the Purdue Rainscaping Education Program, if you wouldn't mind getting the last slide up, when we have the website for our information, we can share where we have completed some of our rainscaping workshops. On our Rainscaping website, we do have some background information. You can see videos for siting and sizing. So it walks you through how to do the infiltration test, how to use that infiltration test to find the maximum depth that your rain garden should be. And then you use that depth and divide it by the square feet of the impervious surface that you're wanting to drain water from to get the overarching square feet of your rain garden. So we do have the steps to walk through, for example, in that kind of process on our Rainscaping website here. So we have 2 videos that go through how to site, size, and some of the basic information there. And then we also have a rain barrel video that walks you through how to set up your rain barrel and how to clean it and maintain it. And if you'd like to know more too, and you really want to dig in, we have our Rainscaping Education Program workshops. And what Wendy was asking is where we have completed some other successful programs. So on our website, you can see demonstration rain gardens, and it has, each of them have nice fact sheets or info sheets that describe the garden siding and sizing, how it was installed and how it's maintained. What's really important for each of the rain gardens that we work on and how we instruct in our class is to have a really strong maintenance plan with all of the different entities who are involved in the process. Because one of the things that, even though they are they're lower maintenance, again, we have the mantra, they're not maintenance free. So we want to make sure that they're well maintained, because that's one thing with the category of green infrastructure that rain gardens fall under, that sometimes using native plants, they can grow bigger or taller, look different than some of the other types of manicured landscapes that certain areas are used to. So it's good to have the education around rain gardens and rainscaping practices, and also have the practices as well maintained as possible so they don't look like they're unkept and that they aren't intentional. So we want to get the plants out of there that don't belong. And also having things like signage available is also really important to educate, not only educate people, but to show that this is an intentional practice too. So one of the things I wanted to mention is that we will have a fall program coming up for virtual online learning rainscaping. Usually we are doing these all in person. So we have in-person class instruction, and part of the reason is because we're taking people on tours, we're visiting rain gardens, and we're also constructing a demonstration rain garden like what Sarah showed in her example. That was the result of our 2-day rainscaping class. Well, with more of learn at home opportunities that we're working on right now due to COVID, we decided that this year we would do only online rainscaping education programs. So we will have 5 sessions coming up starting September 21st and ending October 7th. They are posted on Facebook, and then on our Rainscaping website, we'll make sure to post those. The registration isn't quite ready yet, but it will be very soon. So you can look for notifications on Forestry and Natural Resources, Purdue Extension, Illinois Indiana Sea Grant, social media, and also through our Rainscaping education site too. So we'd welcome for you participation, and we'll definitely make it engaging and have discussion and learn about how to do rainscaping and get you connected into a group of people once you're doing your own rain garden, so you can troubleshoot and learn more. And we hope to have in-person classes then again, hopefully next year or in the near future. But the best place to look for some of those example rain gardens that we've done is on our site on some of the demonstration rain gardens. So it looks like we have a question here for rain barrels, and I'm going to read through that. Okay, so it's asking about managing rain barrels, and when you collect the overflow, so it doesn't end up collecting around the foundation of the house. So yeah, it's a great question. What you do with rain barrels is that you need to have it set up, and you can do it in a couple of different ways to manage that. You can have the overflow going back into the storm system, so into your downspout, wherever your downspout is going, if it's connected into stormwater runoff system, or if it's connected, or if you have it then overflowing into other types of landscaping features. So you definitely need to direct the rain barrel water into the place where you want it to go that's safe. You also want to think about making sure that it's not directing into a neighbor's property or someplace you don't want it to go, like the foundation to back up. So you can also get rain barrels that do that automatically, so that when it's full, then it'll automatically, the overflow will go. You can also have an on and off kind of lever where you turn it on, you have it on when water's filling up, and then you shut it off, and then it's going into that overflow as well. But that's definitely an important feature of rain barrels, that you need to make sure you direct the water to where you want it to go when the barrel has filled up. You can also link them together. So you can also get them with spigots at the top. And so you can have hoses directed between them so they can fill up as you go. So you can play around with that a little bit and see how much water you can collect within your rain barrel. and then directing it to where you want it to go appropriately. And there are several really great designs of commercially available rain barrels too. And many times soil and water conservation districts or other nonprofit groups may have rain barrel sales at a reduced price. It's many times easier to get a rain barrel that's been manufactured to set up. I know there are several different ways that you can create your own too. But the main thing is to think about the seals of rain barrels and make sure that they're sealed tightly and screening is appropriately positioned so that you don't get insects into the rain barrel. You also need to make sure that it's getting it emptied out appropriately and using some type of environmentally friendly soap to clean it, and especially to winterize it. You want to dump it out and spray it out and store it upside down, hopefully ideally in an indoor setting so they don't crack in the winter. Okay, so we have another question. How can people get involved if they want a rain garden in their community? So one of the ways is through our program, of course, that we mentioned, the Rainscaping Education Program, and having a rain garden workshop. We have demonstration gardens that are installed as part of that. So contacting your local extension office and getting something organized that way is a great thing to do. There are several other community organizations too that are interested in rain gardens, and as a stormwater management practice, and going to soil and water conservation districts, talking to them, other types of nonprofit organizations such as watershed groups. Those are all great ways to talk about how to get rain gardens installed. Many times working too with your city and your municipality, especially if you're an MS4 community, these groups are required then to have different kinds of education efforts for stormwater to help prevent polluted runoff. So that's something that you can talk to if you have a stormwater educator in your community or your Department of Public Works. Talk to them about what opportunities, or look online to see what opportunities there might be, either to help fund them or to have opportunities to support local efforts through volunteering too. There are lots of different organizations that are doing that.
Yeah, in Johnson County, we do have Greenwood, the city, that has, they put in some demonstration gardens, and we actually toured those last year, but Franklin College as well. There's just different places around that have put in rain gardens and then incorporating some education for the community that way. And I know, yeah, in here, Gary mentioned about the local recycling organization, that sometimes they'll have classes and potentially rain barrels for free or inexpensive. So we're lucky in Johnson County. I just think we have a great community, but when you start digging through other places around Indiana, you'll see other organizations that are willing to work with you. And there's a question, were volunteers involved in the building of the rain garden? Not with the building of it. The actual making of the rain garden really is the last part of the class. So I think we had maybe 25 or 30 people that signed up for our workshop, and they were the ones who got their hands dirty and helped with putting the plants in. The maintenance, however, is more me and the volunteers. Somebody's asking about where are some of the rain gardens in Greenwood. They actually have some at the libraries around. There's a couple different ones. I guess if somebody specifically wants to connect with me, I could put them in touch with the stormwater person through the city of Greenwood. Be happy to connect you and let me go tour it. Again, it's really neat what they've done up there. They're taking it seriously. There's actually one they built, like there's a park and there's a splash pad, and some of the splash pad water goes into the rain garden a little bit. So it's there in a very public spot that people are going to see.
That's great. And so I definitely encourage folks to check out our website to look for more resources on how to build your own rain gardens, and to also learn more about rain barrels and other types of rainscaping. And you can read about how our demonstration gardens have been constructed and how they're maintained too. So I think we are about at, if there are no other questions, we're going to be wrapping up here in a minute. But also as a reminder, we have our next Forestry and Natural Resources Ask the Expert next Thursday on September 3rd. Is that August 13th? August 13th at 3 p.m. So Jared Brook is talking about planting food plots for wildlife for that particular session. That's great. So, well, thank you so much for joining in today. It is always fun and delightful to talk about rainscaping and rain gardens. And Sarah's project is a great example of what we can do with the Rainscaping Education Program, but also putting in a demonstration rain garden in such a visible spot.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.